we'll discuss what is ETL testing, like what are the topics that we're going to cover as it is a demo. And I'll basically give you what is ETL, the term is all about. And how do you test it? That's what we're going to understand. So when we talk about that, before actually get into the ETL part, I want you guys to understand what is a database and what is SQL. Then it will help you to understand basically this one. So as you know, like you might be knowing already, the database is something that which will store the data in the form of table. A table is nothing but which has columns and rows together, that is called as a table. So database is something that which stores the data in tables. It stores the data in tables, that is called as your database. Right? So let's say when we talk about the different databases which are available, so we actually call them as an RDBMS. RDBMS, which is nothing but the relational database management system. Okay. So which is said to be in general terminology we call that as a DBMS. I mean RDBMS. In general terminology we call it as a database. So there are a lot of RDBMS products which we have in the market. So we have Oracle, we have the SQL Server, we have the databases like Teradata, and we do also have the other databases like the Sybase, DB2. Likewise, we have various databases which are available in the market. See, basically, to all these databases is nothing but which stores the data in the form of tables. So basically, in order to add the data to these databases, in order to read the data from database or modify the data in database, we needed a language to communicate. That language is nothing but the structured query language. So structured query language is a language which helps you to communicate with the database. So if you talk about an SQL, SQL is basically SQL is all about the different commands which will be there, and your SQL is actually divided into different types. So wherein you can understand about how to create the tables and how to alter the tables, and you can also basically you can add the data, which is like inserting the data, updating the data on tables, deleting the data. So likewise you have different commands in SQL which helps you to interact and communicate, modify the data, alter the data in your database. So basically a database is a software product and SQL is a language. Okay, so database and SQL are the two different terminologies, I mean two different things which we have in general. Okay, now why am I talking about the database and SQL is basically these two terms will play a major role in the ETL testing. Okay, so let's first understand about what is ETL and how the ETL process generally works, and then we'll go for an ETL testing. Okay, so when we talk about, so before stepping into or understand about the ETL, we need to know the term data warehouse. So data warehouse is nothing but which stores the data in the form of tables. Which I would say the data warehouse is nothing but the database only. Okay, so a database which stores the data in the form of tables is called as a data warehouse. Okay, what kind of data that you store, or how do you collect what kind of data that you store is nothing but we say that as a collection of transactional data. Collection of transactional data from different systems and storing that from the different systems, and then storing that in a centralized database that is called as a data warehouse. See, when in general, in a layman terms, when you say data warehouse, there is a data which is stored in the form of a tables. Okay, so this is about the data warehouse, which is said to be a collection of transactional data from different systems. So we are going to collect the transactional data. So what is a transactional data? What is a transactional application that we need to understand? So when we talk about a transactional application, so which is called as an OLTP. So OLTP is said to be a online transactional processing system that is called as a online transactional processing system that is called as an OLTP. What do you say? Okay, so when you talk about a transactional system is said to be a where we have a frequent transaction. So what do you mean by a transaction, first of all? When we talk about what is a transaction means, a transaction is nothing but, see, when you go and withdraw money from the ATM, that withdrawing the money is called as a transaction. Or when you go and book a ticket on any e-commerce application, let's say you go and book any product on Amazon.com, so which is nothing but a transaction. So booking a product is also said to be a transaction. Or you might say that go and book a ticket on airline ticket from one place to the other place to travel. So that we can call it as a transaction. So a transaction is nothing but which has which actually add the data or modify the data in the database, that is called as a transaction. So a transaction, so when you say OLTP, there will be frequent transactions which will be happening on the system. That's why we call this as an OLTP. See, OLTPs are basically used for day-to-day operations. So where and all you can see the transactional system. See, if you, as I said, ATM withdrawal application, you can call it as OLTP. Or any e-commerce application like Amazon, eBay can call it as an OLTP. Or airline reservation systems, like if you have idea about Yatra.com now, so that is, you can say that. Also, when you go to any retail mall, there the agent will be entering about the items and then they generate an invoice, right? So that is nothing but your transactional system. So likewise, on a day-to-day basis, your internet banking system can be a transactional system, or your PayPal, whatever is there, money crediting system between the buyers and sellers, that can be a transactional system. So a transaction means which actually modifies or add the data to the database, that's called as a transaction. For a transactional system. And these applications we actually use for a day-to-day operations. These are not used for analysis. Analysis means checking the reports and all. We don't use a transactional system. And basically, data warehouse is actually used for analysis. But now we'll understand how the data will flow into the data warehouse. So let's take a simple pain diagram and understand what do you mean by an ETL and how the data flows from transactional system to this one. So suppose, let's say, you know that Amazon has various websites for selling the products in different countries, right? So they can't just maintain one single transactional system for selling the products to the global customers. So basically, when you talk about Amazon.in, this is for an Indian customers. Let's say Amazon let's say US or .com, sorry. .com is for US. Let's say if you talk about the Amazon.eu, this for Europe customers. So whenever Indian customers will buy and purchases any product, so there will be a new data which gets added to this transactional system. Let's say this Amazon.in is actually developed on an Oracle database. Okay. Similarly, Amazon.com, just assume that since their operations there in Amazon in US is very high, so let's say they have the Amazon.com system, which is, let's say, they have implemented on a mainframe system or something for handling all the orders and everything. They have implemented on mainframes. Similarly, when we talk about Amazon.eu, let's say they might have implemented some other database. Let's say Microsoft ERP. Let's say they have implemented on Microsoft ERP, which is nothing but the MS SQL server. They have implemented. Now, if you see your transactional data, whatever we talk about, OLTP data, it's being distributed across the multiple transactional system, what we see. And when you talk about the building a data warehouse, see, whenever we want to build the data warehouse, basically what happens is that we will integrate the data from all these transactional systems. We'll integrate the data from all these transactional systems and put this data into a centralized database that is nothing but your data warehouse. See, when I'm actually integrating the data, I can put this data into any database. So I mean to say, when you're choosing the data warehouse, you can choose any database as your data warehouse. Like Teradata can be my data warehouse, or Oracle can be my data warehouse, or DB2 can be my data warehouse, or Sybase can be my data warehouse. Anything can be your data warehouse when you do that. The process of integrating this transactional data from the different source systems, and your ETL tools will also integrate the data from different types of flat files and XML files and all those. Okay. So process of integrating the wide variety of data from the different systems into one database, that is nothing but your ETL process. So here Teradata is nothing but your data warehouse. So what do you mean by an ETL? So yes, as you might be knowing, like E stands for extraction of data, so which is nothing but reading the data, and next one is nothing but the transformation of data. So transformation is nothing but of modifying the data what we have, which it is there. Modifying means one form to the other form and all. And let's say when you talk about the load is nothing but inserting or updating the data on your target data warehouse, that is called as a load. So to do this ETL process and to integrate the data from all these transactional systems into a centralized data warehouse, this is we have a various ETL tools, which I mean to say. So these ETL tools there are many ETL tools. When you talk about, let's say, Informatica Power Center is one ETL tool, and when you talk about the data stage is one ETL tool. Similarly, the ab initio is one ETL tool, or SSIS is one ETL tool. Let's say ODI is another ETL tool which we have, which is used for day-to-day operations when you see that. So all these ETL tools basically integrates the data from this. So what is the job of an ETL developer here is that from all these transactional systems, they integrate the data into a data warehouse. Okay. Now let's understand about what is the job of an ETL tester. Okay. Before that, okay, let's understand. Once we load the data into the data warehouse, then what is the use? How do we basically verify or how do we analyze the data? So analysis of a data can be done with the help of a business intelligence tools. When you say business intelligence tools, it's like all these tools will read the data from your data warehouse and represent the data in a beautiful visualization charts, like a bar graph, or it could be like, it can be represented in a pie chart, or it could be represented in a line graph, or in a tabular format, anywhere. So whichever is easier for a business user to understand about the data, in that format, we will represent the data. So basically, when you talk about this BI tools, all BI tools will read the data and show to the user. So what do you mean by analysis? Analysis is nothing but generating the reports from your data warehouse is called as your analysis. What kind of reports you generate? Let's say if I want to understand about what is my total profit from India, or what is my total profit across the different Europe countries, or let's say what are the top 10 selling products in India, or what are the least revenue generating products in India. So all these kind of analysis, if you want to do it, then your BI tools will help you to analyze the data once the data is integrated into your data warehouse. So when we talk about these, what do you mean by analysis? Basically we are generating a report, right? So what do you do by analyzing the data? Basically by analyzing the data, we take decisions by analyzing. So let's take one example, okay? So if I understand that iPhone 4S is not generating a good revenue for me in India, so basically you will take a decision of not promoting that product, or you might take a decision to promote that product even in a better way so that you can sell more units of iPhone 4S. So which is nothing but a decision. You're taking a decision based on the analysis that you find or based on the information about your business. So that's why your data warehouse is said to be a decision support system. Basically, it will help the business users who are there in the top hierarchy to help them to take the decisions and then to improve the business. So that's why a BI is called as a business. Why the intelligence term is actually given, because it gives a power to the business user to take a wise decision to improve their sales, to improve their return of investment, to improve their services, all these things. So when you talk about any data warehousing project, it is basically the combination of ETL plus BI is called as an ETL. So let's understand about the BI tools. So when you talk about the BI tools, let's say OBIE is your one BI tool, Oracle Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition, and you have a Cognos, you have Tableau is another ETL tool, another BI tool, ClickView, and you have the another tools like Hyperion Space, Business Objects. Likewise, you have various BI tools which we have. So all these BI tools will help you to generate the reports. So as I said, when you talk about the data warehouse, so data warehouse is actually the combination of ETL plus BI. Together, it's called the data warehouse. So in any data warehousing project, you'll have an ETL developer as well as BI developers who will be there. So when we talk about the ETL testing, even your data warehousing testing is divided into two modules. Let's come to the testing terminology now. So data warehousing testing is also being divided into two. So in this course, we are going to understand about both ETL testing as well as your BI testing, what you see. It's a combination of both, ETL testing plus the BI testing together. We are going to call this as a data warehousing testing when you do that. So let's try to understand what do you mean by an ETL testing and what do you mean by the BI testing. Okay. See, now we know that the transactional data is being integrated. Suppose let's say I have a different tables here. I have a customer table, and here also I have something like an address table which will store the address information about the customers. Likewise, we have a different tables which are there. Let's say order related table. Now the data is present in the form of tables, and it is also present in the form of a flat file. Now you're going to the data from all these structured tables is being kept into your data warehouse. So what is the job of an ETL tester is that the data, whatever is present in this transactional system, is properly integrated into the data warehouse or not, that you need to verify. Okay. So now your ETL developer has developed the program from customer table. They're actually loading your data into a table called as a dim customer. So just assume that this is being loaded into a table called as a dim customer. So when the data is being loaded, you need to write a different ETL test cases to validate the data between this customer table and the dim customer table. I'm giving you a very simple example. Okay. So the process of validating the data between your customer and dim customer is said to be an ETL test. Okay. So when we talk about this ETL testing process, see, here the data is stored in the database and here the data is stored in the database. Do we have any tool for validating the ETL data? No, we do not have any tools, or automation tools are not there for validating the data between this. So which language can communicate with the databases? That is your SQL. So that's why for validating the data between the tables, you must know the SQL. So using an SQL, ETL testing is like a manual testing process which will help you to validate the data between the two databases. Okay. So that's why when you talk about the ETL testing, SQL plays a very important role in writing the queries and validating the data. So that's why we are going to emphasize in this course by spending almost 10 hours to understand only the SQL. So we are going to spend at least 10 hours to understand the SQL. So if you are coming from a testing background, you don't need to worry. We will help you to understand the SQL in a complete way, and then we will move on to the ETL testing process. So ETL testing is completely a manual testing process driven by writing the SQL queries. So now let's understand what ETL testing is all about. So when you talk about the ETL testing, this ETL testing is basically divided into different types. I mean, the way how we have a functional testing, smoke testing and all, even the ETL testing is divided into different ways: smoke testing and functional testing. And we talk about the regression testing which we have, and we talk about functional testing, regression testing, as well as a system testing and the integration testing. And we also have performance testing, not by using your Mercury load runner or wind runner. It is just the manual process again to measure the performance. So your ETL testing will be divided into this many. So anyway, when we go to the course, we will understand in detail, but I'll just take up a functional testing, and I'll give you the different test scenarios which we can validate in the functional testing. So assume that a ETL developer has developed a program called as a program P1, which is moving the data from customer table to the dim customer table. So what kind of test cases you write and what kind of queries that you write for validating the data here. So basically the validation of data is nothing but, first we will verify the count between the source and the target. See, basically when you say the count between the source and the target. So when you talk about the count, basically we'll identify what are the total number of records that are present in the customer table, and whether this complete data in the customer table is properly loaded. The number of records is same here and here is same or not. So how do you validate? Here we'll write a query and understand how many records are there in the customer table, and here also we'll write a query and understand how many records are there. So if both the records are matching, that means your program doesn't have any error. Otherwise, your program has goofed up some data. It has rejected the data, or it has filtered some data because of some errors. So that way we will validate the count between the source and the target. The second one is that, see, your programs will be running multiple times in the production environment. So it might cause the duplicates in the database. So we'll identify target table when we use that. So verification of a duplicates. So how do you do it? Again, we'll write a query and then understand that whether when you write a query, do we have any duplicates with respect to the columns, all those things, we will do that. So likewise, we will also define the column level data validation. So when you say column level data validation, it is basically, suppose let's say we have a column called as a customer name, and whose value is about the, let's say Sachin Tendulkar is the customer name which we have. And when the data of the customer name is loaded into the dim customer, because of the program error, it is actually loaded as something like this, Sachin 10. So basically the name is being truncated here. So using a column level data validation, we are going to understand, is there any mismatch between the columns in the source to the target columns, data validation. So similarly, we'll also talk about, we'll verify the null values. Suppose your program might have forgot to, your programmers, the developers might have forgot to load the data into maybe one of the column called as a phone number. So there is a data which is available in your source, but they didn't load the data, so which is being loaded as a null. So you're going to determine such kind of values and compare whether we have a data available for those columns or not. And we are also going to validate the referential integrity. So referential integrity is a big term here, in case if you're not about the database fundamentals. Referential integrity, like we are going to verify the parent child. So basically, when we talk about this, it's basically about the parent parent and child relationship will be validated through the referential integrity check, whatever we have. So this is how we will verify the different types of functional testing. So similarly, we will actually write the different test cases for a smoke testing, regression testing, and system testing and all. So basically, when you look at the ETL test cases, I mean, we will understand in the training how we can write the different test cases in the ETL testing process. So we are going to share the different types of documents. So this is one of the sample test cases for each type, how we can write the test cases, and what is a functional, what is a system test case, and what is a performance regression test case likewise. So we'll understand that what type of test case you have to write, how do you need to execute for one program to the other program, how your queries will differ from one to another. So all these things will be verified with respect to that. So this is about the functional, basically the functional, different types of test cases which we write. So basically, when you talk about the ETL testing, see, when you build a data warehouse, any tool can be used. So as an ETL tester, we must be prepared to test any kind of ETL tools or ETL tools programs. But in this course, we are going to learn the ETL testing, how it can be done by using Informatica tool. Okay, so ETL testing is completely carried out with the help of an Informatica tool. We are going to show you how the Informatica testing can be done. You know, if you are working with any other ETL tools, the process is same. It's just the UI will differ, that's it. But the process, whatever we follow, the kind of queries that you write, the kind of documentation that you prepare, everything will be same in terms of ETL. So similarly, even we'll have something like a BI testing as well. So when we talk about the BI testing, we are going to learn on the OBIE, how OBIE reports can be tested, or how the UI and the different levels can be tested in the BI. So even the BI testing is classified into different types. So you'll have a smoke testing, regression, performance testing, and all these different kind of testing which will be done even on the OBIE side. So this course basically comprises of the 3 modules, I would say. We are going to spend on the SQL at least 10 hours to understand in and out of an SQL, how to write the complex queries, all these things. And ETL testing, close to 15 hours we are going to spend on the ETL testing, including the assignments and all. And the BI testing, again, we are going to spend at least 2 hours on the BI testing to understand. So I would say this course will go for 25 to 30 hours, somewhere between that. So your SQL will go for 10 to 12 hours, and ETL testing will go for 15 hours, and then BI testing will go for this. So these 3 modules will be covered. For testing, you know, in the ETL testing, the people might be saying about homogeneous testing and the heterogeneous testing as well. So we are going to understand both the types. So when you are reading the data from table to table, how do you need to test it? When you are reading the data from a flat file to a table, how do you need to test it? Or when you are reading the data from SQL Server database to Oracle, both are 2 different data types, databases, how do you need to do that? So all these things will be discussed as part of the curriculum. So basically the prerequisite for attending this is, I would say, you should have a knowledge of defect life cycle, and you should have a knowledge of testing, general normal testing process, how it happens. And also it is good if you understand how to raise the defect in quality center and ALM and all. So because we may not be touching the ALM and all here, but that is good if you understand how to raise the defect and all. So if you know the software development life cycle and the software testing life cycle and how to raise the defect, that is enough for you to learn the ETL testing. So I would say those are the 2 prerequisites which you should have. So let me just give the prerequisites for attending this. Is your SDLC and STLC lifecycle, and you should have a little bit of knowledge about raising the defect, because we are going to use HP ALM, Quality Center, Bugzilla, all these kind of tools for raising the defects and all those things. So if you have seen that tools UI, that is enough. So we are going to understand the complete ETL ETL testing lifecycle and how to prepare the different documents like a test plan, test strategy, how to write the test cases, how to execute the test cases. Everything will be discussed with respect to these three modules. So when you talk about the installations, basically the installations, we are going to take care of the installations as well. We are going to set up Oracle database, SQL developer, Informatica on your machines, and wherein you can also understand the UI, how to navigate through the tool. Everything will be discussed. And along with this, little bit of Unix knowledge also will be shared to access the files, everything. Because as an ETL tester, you might even need some of the, ETL to copy the files, to remove the files and all. Little bit of Unix commands is also required. So through the course of the ETL testing, we are going to understand that as well. Okay. So this is the overall details about it. I hope the team would have shared already the details about what topics we are going to cover and everything. So this is your overall curriculum, how we are going to understand and then do it. So if you have any questions now, so you can go ahead by introducing your name, and then I'll try to answer one by one question.
I think this is Dhruv here.
Yeah, Dhruv.
For Informatica, will you be doing any setup on, will there be a setup needed on the system? Any software needs to be installed?
We will do that, whatever is required, yeah. Simple Informatica repository mappings and all required. We will do that. We have a setup. We'll set up on the VM for you.
Okay, and these Unix commands, are they submitted through Informatica or how do they?
Yeah, it's not through Informatica. You need to actually know how to operate the tools like PuTTY, WinSCP and all for copying the files and testing those files and all. So that I'll show you in my machine practically, how to log in, how to copy and those things.
Okay.
Okay. How about the BI tool? Like we'll be covering some BI testing if I'm not wrong. So OBIW is the tool that we are using. So that particular software is not being installed in our machines.
Yes, true. You're correct. Because setting up that, I mean, if you need, we can even set up that, but you need a very high RAM. If you have a high RAM machine, yes, we can even set up that OBIE also. You can also go through the OBIE screens, log in, and then do that. But that needs a high amount of RAM. If you're good with the configuration, we can even set up that as well. Not an issue for us.
Okay. So are we covering defect management as well? Like as you have told, probably we'll be working on ALM or HP.
Yeah, those tools, it will not be possible for us to actually show you in the training, but I mean, install it on your machine. But if you just want us to show as a kind of a demo for maybe 30 minutes, I can try and show you like how can you rise the defect, how can you assign the defect, what are the priority, severity, all those things.
Okay. So that's being covered as a part of the course?
You are talking about HPALM?
Yeah, the defect management, defect logging and stuff.
No, that is not covered, but if the participants are not aware about it, so probably we can try and arrange that and then show you how to do that.
Okay. So, can you install PuTTY or the tools for Unix commands, or it's just that you're going to...
Basically, setting up all those things is a difficult task on a single machine because you should have a high amount of RAM and moreover, you should have a good configuration machines. But in case if you just want to practice for practice and then look at it, we can try and give you the access for one day in our system, which you can do.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I've got a question more. Like, will you be providing any project assistance as a real-time or a dummy project?
Yeah. See, basically, at the end of the course, we'll tell you how you have to prepare your resume, how you have to present yourself in the interviews. Also, a sample resumes, how you need to explain about the project. All those things. We'll be spending at least 45 minutes in understanding, and the interview questions and everything will be shared with you as part of the materials.
Okay. So it's like we are not going to work exclusively on any project.
See, basically the testing, ETL testing process, whatever we are going through the in the curriculum, we are going to take a sample project and then we'll test that project. I'm going to show you the real-time retail project. And in that retail project, when you have the ETL programs developed, how can you validate the data? That itself is a real-time case study, which we are going to learn.
Okay, so
it's there, you can call it as it's an integrated in the curriculum, real-time case study.
So we'll be given assignments or stuff like homework in order for us to practice.
Yes. Every day we'll have a soft copy of lab guides which will be shared with you on the SQL side, and for for the practicing the ETL testing and all, you can probably notes will be shared with you, how you have to test, what program you have to test, and all those things on a day-to-day basis. First, it will be demonstrated within the class, and after the demonstration, you can probably take a look at it, and then you can just try and repeat the similar kind of queries to validate.
Right. Okay. And will we be given the recorded videos of the classes?
Yes. At the end of the class every day, the team will upload it and then send you the recorded video. And you can download it and you can play it whenever you want.
Right.